Okay, you guys, I'm going to be answering a few questions that I received today, but I'm a bit busy and I'm headed to church, so video it is. So I've been getting a lot of questions about breeding, boarding, training, grooming, all of that great stuff, and I never mind answering. We even run a mentorship program. However, our mentorship program has been delayed until opening in January. That way we are able to train with our interns and to teach them hands-on. Now, with that being said, people that are asking for breeding advice but have no breeding experience whatsoever, you purchased a dog as a pet and then you later decided that you can breed. You think you can. It's that easy. So that's what you think you're gonna do, right? So those same people are the same people that didn't want to pay $5,500 for that dog for full breeding rights. They just thought they were slick, telling the original breeder that they wanted a pet only, that they're not a breeder, they've never bred, blah, 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 blah. And now that their dog is old enough to stud or is going into heat, they've decided that breeding is so easy, that's what they gonna do, right? If you're that person and you do not have a copy of your purchase contract, right? And your purchase contract does not say full breeding rights, then we personally will not accept you into our mentorship program. That is our own personal standard, and we reserve the right to refuse service to anybody. With that being said, if you purchased the dog and you didn't receive a purchase contract, then I highly suggest not using that breeder again. As a professional, experienced, ethical breeder, in my own opinion, you should be having purchase contracts for each puppy that you sell or rehome. We chip all of our dogs, and we have first right of refusal in all of our contracts. And I do uphold those by the letter of the law. I will take you to court. I don't want to be that breeder, but I'm also not going to let somebody pay me $2,500 on a pet home for a $6,500 dog that is breedable with perfect genetic health, with great structure, with beautiful color, with great temperament. I'm not going to do that. And the fact that people think that that's okay is disgusting. First of all, doing things that way is extremely unprofessional. It is extremely unethical, and I don't do business that way, unfortunately, for everybody asking. I also do not stud my males out for a pup back, ever. If I have not done business with you prior, and you do not live within 5 hours of me or in the same state, I'm not going to give you a pup back deal on a stud. It's just not going to happen. There are way too many breeders out here with no experience that don't have the money to start breeding. This is not quick, easy money like people think it is. I get up every day at 3:34 a.m. to start my morning chores. Feeding, cleaning kennels, disinfecting, running them out, training, bathing, the whole nine. And then that's just my own personal animals. Then I have children, I have a husband, I have multiple businesses, right? Like all adults do, I have responsibilities. Part of being a responsible, ethical breeder is, one, getting a mentor. If you do not have one, you need to get one. Breeding is not for the meek-hearted. It is a lifestyle. When all your friends are going to the lake and going on vacays and you can't go because you have to whelp a litter or you have a sick dog or whatever the case may be, it is a 24/7 lifestyle. I pay anywhere from $4,000 to $8,000 a dog. I health test all of my dogs that I breed. There is only one dog I have that is not health tested, and I'm not breeding her. We scrape all of our dogs for demodex. We do full allergy panels. We do color testing. We do demodex scrapes. We do the whole nine. Cardiacs, pallets, trachs, everything. We use purchase contracts with first right of refusal. We chip our dogs. We stay in contact because as an ethical breeder, a professional, responsible breeder, absolutely not a single one of your productions should ever end up in a shelter, end up rehomed without your knowledge, or end up in a rescue, because that is what happens with this breed. People buy these dogs, they think they're so cute, they're so unique, and they do not understand the quality of care that these dogs take. They are high maintenance. You need to clean their eyes every night. You need to clean their wrinkles. This is every morning, every night. Clean their eyes, clean their wrinkles, wipe their hiney, all that great stuff. Okay? Because if you don't, they are prone to allergies. They are prone to skin infections. They're extremely hard to potty train and to break. They're very clingy and needy. They don't like to be alone. That's why you always see my dogs on the road with me or going with me. But at the same time, you risk parvo, coccidia, whatever, traveling with your dogs. So if you're like me, you take a roll of turf with you and let them go potty, and then you don't let them out anywhere else. Personally, that's what I do. I don't like sick dogs. On to the next question. Other than ethical breeding and our mentorship, the next question was unpapered dogs. I do not breed unpapered dogs. And I'm just going to quote of me. Having an unpapered dog is like having a car with no title. It's worthless. Okay? If you just want a companion, that's great. But if you are breeding unpapered dogs, you are not an ethical breeder, and you cannot call yourself a breeder. Period. You are breeding mutts. You cannot prove where they came from. You cannot prove their lineage. You can't prove their blood lines. You can't prove that they came from who you said they came from. You just can't. And if you are breeding unpapered dogs, I'm willing to bet that you don't chip your dogs. You don't use a spay and neuter contract. You don't use a first right of refusal contract or a purchase contract. And I'm willing to bet that you don't health test. So what that means is you are continuously breeding mutts and overpopulating animals, canines in your area that are possibly genetic nightmares, and they end up dumped, fought in shelters, in rescues, flipped, you name it. If you have purchased a bulldog with breeding rights, a female per se, and you want to breed, but you have no experience, and you ask me for a pup back, I'm going to laugh at you. Because one, if you cannot afford to purchase a bulldog at full price for breeding, and you tell me that it's a pet, and then later I find out that you're trying to breed this production of mine, we're going to have a legal issue. I do not give AKC paperwork with pet homes, and I will tell you why. Because the last few that I have marked with limited registration, and those same slimy backyard breeders will call AKC and they will complain, or they will say that we marked it wrong, whatever. And essentially what you're doing is you are stealing $5,000 from my family. These dogs feed my family. These dogs don't just feed my family, but they are my family. And if you know us, you know 1010% that is true. My dogs travel everywhere with me. They have their own rooms, their own beds, their own couches, their own chairs, their own car seats, their own strollers, their own shoes, their own sweaters. I mean, they got everything my kids got and more, okay? So I don't play around when it comes to my dogs. These dogs provide for my family. These dogs provided a way to open my pet shop and a coffee shop. So when I first got into the bulldog game about probably 13, 14 years ago, almost 15 years, let's see, I'm about to be 30, so I was 17. So I was 17, I'm almost 30. I saved for 3 years to get my first bulldog, and I started with a very standard brindle female. Like most breeders, I started at the bottom. I raised her from a pup. I do with all my dogs. I don't buy 2-year-old ready to breed females. I raise my dogs from 8 weeks old most of the time. Now, I have one dog that I bought at like 9 months old, but she just stole my heart, and I don't breed her. Anyways, I started at the bottom, and that's what you have to do, is build a foundation, health test. It takes money to make money, okay? You're not gonna just go out and buy a $1,500 bulldog, offer a pup back deal for a stud, and then charge $3,000 for some genetically nightmare pups that aren't health tested, that haven't been scraped for demodex, that aren't registered even. That is absurd to me. So you have a pup that's 8 weeks old, and ethically you should not be breeding a female until her second or third heat. I always wait till the third. That's my own personal preference. I'm not saying that it's right or wrong on the second or third, but you definitely don't breed on the first, okay? That is unethical as heck. A lot of people will do 3 litters. I only do 2. I like my females to retire young and early. I train them for medical alerts, and they go to a veteran or a disabled child or senior citizen. Most of the time my dogs are co-owned to a family, not another breeder, so that they can go on the weekends or during the week and visit with that family and form a bond. Because I don't kennel my dogs for their whole life. I don't believe that that is ethical. So now your female is on her second heat and you're looking for a stud, right? You've had this female since they were 8 weeks old. You did it right. You've raised them. They're in their second heat. But you can't afford to pay a $2,500 or $3,500 stud fee, and you want to do a pup back. And I understand a lot of people do pup backs because they've previously done business, etc. Maybe they want to add different blood to their yard. That's a bit different than a newbie coming in with a pup they bought as a pet home with no breeding rights, trying to breed it for a pup back with no experience. But anyways, if you cannot afford your stud, or you cannot afford to purchase a bulldog at full price for breeding, then you cannot afford the care of this bulldog. They are high maintenance. In general, bulldogs can be prone to allergies, seasonal allergies, skin conditions, food allergies, hip dysplasia, trach and palate issues, demodex, cherry eyes. There's quite a bit that can go wrong with this breed. I personally carry pet insurance on each dog that I own, and they each have their own savings account because it literally does cost that much. 3 of my dogs have such sensitive stomachs that we went through 5-6 different kinds of food to find the right kind for them because they came from inexperienced breeders, and we rescued a couple of them. I mix 2 foods, and each bag is $85, okay? I buy 2 bags of each kind. That is 4 bags at $80 a week. They can't be outside below 50 or above 70, except to go to the potty. I'd say less than 15 minutes and preferably under 10. I had a bulldog, Sweet Annie, one of my first, when I was still pretty inexperienced, and she really wasn't outside longer than to potty, but she still got a respiratory infection that turned into pneumonia. Of course, I took her to the vet 3-4 times, and my vet bill ended up being $3,500 for a respiratory infection and pneumonia. Most of these dogs of this breed do not breed naturally and need to be inseminated. That costs money unless you were experienced enough to do it yourself. Most people that are in the game that I know do it themselves. However, there are those that do not. Then, when your female comes into heat, you're talking about progesterone testing. I've had females that I've had to test up to 20 times to get a litter because they have to be at an exact percentage for you to inseminate and get the pups that you want to get from them. I've paid anywhere from $60 to $200 a progesterone test, and you're talking about anywhere again from $60 to $200 20 times within less than a month period per dog. Then again, most of these dogs also do not birth naturally and need to have a C-section. I have paid anywhere from $2,000 to $4,500 per C-section. Then after the C-section, you have a litter, usually anywhere between 4, 9, if you're extremely lucky, over 10 pups. Those pups then need to be whelped. You now have 8 weeks of responsibility to 4 to 10 plus pups, right? Those pups have to be fed every 2 hours, just like a newborn baby. Their linens have to be changed. There are incubators involved if you're doing it right in case of an emergency. Incubators have cost me anywhere from $1,000 to $4,000. Then you have oxygen concentrators, again, extremely expensive. My ultrasound machine cost me $2,000. My Doppler cost me almost $1,000. Our monitoring equipment for blood pressure, blood sugar, heart rate, oxygen, all that great stuff that we connect them to cost me $5,000. So my point of sharing all of this and what we spend and how we personally do things is, one, because I was asked in our question and answer box. Two, because I quite a bit get this crazy, like, oh, that's way too much money. Well, if that's way too much money, then you cannot afford to take care of this breed, even to have it as a pet. I understand they are quite expensive, and there is a very big reason behind why they are so expensive. If you find a cheap $1,000, $1,500, $2,000 bulldog, you should be scared. You should wonder if you are getting a genetic nightmare. The questions that you need to ask when purchasing a pup. Since I've been asked about purchasing pups, I'm going to give you the questions that I ask. And I personally ask a ton of questions. And that's what frustrates me so much about seeing posts or hearing other breeders go, oh, if you got 100 questions, then I don't want to sell you my dog anyways. Like, who do you know that's about to give you $3 to $6 to $8 grand for a dog that you don't want to answer no questions on? And why are you trying to sell a dog that you don't even have their pedigree ready? So look, here are the questions you're going to be asking, okay? One, you want to see their pedigree. If they don't have that pedigree ready, you don't want to do business with them. It's that simple, okay? Two, you want to know if they have been genetically health tested, the parents and the pup, okay? If they say yes, but they can't provide that paperwork immediately, then I wouldn't be doing business with them. Then I would be asking for their vet reference, their self. Because I personally want each pup that I own, I want every bit of their vet records from the day they were born. That's me personally. I keep a complete, very detailed, organized file of my dog's medical records and their shots and their training and their certificates and anything else. They literally all have their own binder with dividers and page protectors labeled like the OCD crazy Looney Tune I am. So, you want a pedigree, shot records, complete vet records. You want to know about health testing. You want to know about demodex scrapes. You want to know about any allergy panels or allergies that parents have. You want to know about any cherry eye lines through parents or siblings, etc. When you're asking about health testing, you want to make sure that there's no history of hip dysplasia throughout their lineage. You want to make sure that there is no history of cardiac issues, palate issues, trach issues. That's why you should be testing for all of these things.